Welcome back to Let's Talk Careers. I'm so excited to bring another incredible guest. Today, we are speaking with Irene Cló Rodriguez, who is an image consultant and stylist based here in the United Arab Emirates. But I know that you're not in the UAE at the moment. You are in Italy. Irene, it's so great to have
Yes.
you with me. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Maria, for inviting me. I'm honored to be here.
Irene, tell us what you're doing right now as an image consultant and stylist.
Right now, what I do is I help entrepreneurs build their brand. So we work through their communication, their message, their values. And at the same time, since it's your personal brand, I believe that every brand, even companies, should always have a face behind it to actually achieve high sales and a certain level of success. So what I do is I build their personal brand starting from their communication and their values, and then translate all of that into a style that will also, of course, translate into images, videos, and content for online or offline events. So it's a 360 degrees service.
Now, before that, you weren't always doing what you're doing right now. Working in the military is something that most often we hear males asking about. But here you were working for the military right at the beginning of your career. Can you tell us how you went from that to where you are right now?
So I joined the army when I was 19. So I was very young back then. And I grew up in a small town here in Italy. And, back then, this was 2009. We didn't have internet. I mean, we had internet, but not as much as right now. So we didn't have smartphone. It looks like a different age, but it was just not even 15 years ago. And I actually didn't really know what I wanted to do. I know I had so many skills. I was very talented. I speak 4 languages. I was very good with people. I loved being around people, but I was lost. I just honestly didn't know what to do. But I felt the pressure of making a choice because I was finishing high school and I still didn't have an idea. So for me, since where I live, there's a lot of military bases. I thought that it would be a good experience. I was actually inspired by the women in a uniform because I saw them as an inspiration, as a big goal for me. That would be something that I would be proud of. So I decided to join. I started as a volunteer, so at the very base, and then I moved into a higher rank into the police. So I actually stayed there for 9 years. It was a long, long time. And back then I thought it was the right thing to do. But looking back now, I see that it was mostly what society wanted me to do. My father was really proud of me, of what I was doing. Everybody was so proud of me because I'm a high achiever as a person. So of course I was achieving high results because the process for joining the army is not really easy. It took me 1 year to actually transit into the police because it's a 1 year process, the hiring. So you go through tests, physical tests, medical tests. It was a very, very long process. And I had, of course, to study and prepare myself for those tests. And as a high achiever, of course, I achieved my goals, but it was not really my goal. It was somehow what society, my family, my environment back then actually thought was the best for me. So I ended up joining, and I don't know, since the very beginning, I was feeling like, I don't know, something is wrong here, something is missing. Yes, I am achieving so much, I'm doing so great, but yet, I don't know, something is not quite right. But I ended up staying because back then that was what I knew, what everybody was telling me. Everybody was so proud of me. So I just said, okay, maybe it's just a temporary feeling. Maybe it will go back, it will go away once I transit into the police. So I transited into the police, and then that feeling was still there. And in army school, the police training was really tough, both physically and mentally, psychologically, especially because it's an environment by itself. It's a very different type of of job to say. It's a work that requires a lot of mental strength. So again, I was not feeling like super good. But I thought, okay, this is just my first year in school, military school. Everybody knows this stuff. So I'm like, okay, next year it will be better. Next year comes and I was still not feeling happy. Something was not right. But I said, okay, next year will be better. Next year comes, same. Then I finished school, I started working. So I said, okay, now I'm finally gonna be, out of school. I will start working. I will be happy. I would just be, myself. But still, that feeling was still inside of me. I was not happy. I didn't feel like I belonged there. And so after 9 years, I actually realized, because, I stayed there a long time. So in a long time, that feeling would not go away, even though I changed location, I changed my supervisors, I changed my management, but still that feeling was there. And so after 9 years, I said, okay, maybe the problem is not outside of me, but the problem is me, meaning that I don't fit here. And so I decided to quit. I left the army.
I really
And
appreciate that you explained it that way, because I think young people make this assumption that they're going to start a career and they're going to have to do it forever. And I'm almost wondering, as you retell that story, if that's why you were trying to make it work for you, because at some level you thought, well, if everyone's really proud of me, then I should continue. Do you think now that you've come through this experience that if you went back, you would have stayed 9 years? Or do you think you would have, knowing what you know today, done it, tried it, if it didn't feel right, move on and do something else?
honestly, if I could go back at high school when I was about to make that decision, I would honestly take a gap year and travel a little bit, because that's another big passion of me. I really love to travel because my mother is from Dominican Republic. So I've been traveling since I was a baby. And I just love to experience new culture, new people. That was a big part of me that was missing in the army, because in the army, yes, I had my annual leave, but for me, it was not enough. I wanted to have experiences abroad. So probably I would take a gap year, take my time, see new people, experience new places, and then make a decision. Because the problem for me was that I didn't know what else to do. And I just followed what everybody else was doing. I was not really keen to go to university, even though I ended up going. I have a master's degree in law, which I got while I was working. But at the time, I didn't really feel like university was for me. So what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I don't know. I don't know. And I just ended up making this choice. But again, it was not really my choice deep down. Like, it was something that other people told me to do. And then after I quit, I took a gap year. I went to Australia for a full year. And that's when I realized I should have done this 10 years ago, because I took the gap year when I was 28, but I should have taken it at 18, 19, because I was confused. I needed to find myself, understand myself, because sometimes, at 19 years old, maybe right now it's different because, we have so many content creators, so many resources, but back then we didn't really have that much. So we only had your parents, your teachers, your friends, and living in a small town makes it even harder because everything is the same. The culture is the same. The people are the same. The mentality is the same. So I just ended up following that. But for me, it would have been beneficial to just experience a different point of view, a different way of living, a different way of thinking, so I could make an honest decision, honest with myself. So something that would be really for me.
I love that you took a gap year. Part of the
Yes.
work that I do with students is help them to create those gap year opportunities. And one of the challenges that we see with parents is the concern that if they take a year, it's kind of like a year off and they'll lose sight of their future goals. I know that you were older than the high school student who graduates and then takes a gap year, but do you think that the gap year, that travel abroad to Australia, do you think that that could have been done with the same level of maturity if you were 19 years old?
I think, yes, of course, it would have been different. Maybe I would have joined a school abroad, maybe a 1 year course. I would have gone with a different mentality. Instead, I went there with just my luggage, no objective, no goal, no expectation, because I was completely lost. But at 18, maybe I would have joined an English school or somehow like a 1 year course, because the visa, at least for Australia, was just for 1 year. So anyway, I would have come back. But I don't think you would. First of all, you don't lose time, because I mean, at 18, you still have your whole life in front of you. It's not the end. Life doesn't end at 25. That's not true. I actually reinvented myself completely at 28. So it's not true. Life doesn't end at 25. You can join university at 21, as I did. You don't need to join as soon as you can. And honestly, I believe it's much better to make a conscious decision about what you want to do, especially because university is really challenging. Sometimes it can be really hard to go through the whole process. And if you don't really like what you're studying, if you don't like your environment, it's even more hard to go through the whole academic process. So I don't think it's a waste of time. And at the same time, I can understand that, your child is going abroad. What if he or she meets someone and she decides to stay, or anything can happen. But I believe that the experience, especially if you are born and raised in a small town like I am, experiencing a different culture and a melting pot, because I was in Sydney, and Sydney is a little bit like Dubai. There's lots of cultures, lots of people coming in. So you experience and see how different people think, how different people live. And you have a new perspective about what you can do, about what you like and what you don't like. Because for me, that was another huge problem. I had no idea. What do I like? I like so many things. I like to travel. I speak 4 languages. I like literature. I like music. I like dancing. Like I had so many options, so many things that I liked, that in the end, I could not make a conscious decision. So I think that going abroad, it should not be a holiday. That's for sure. They should not go, in my opinion, thinking, oh, I'm gonna go there and just be partying and going around as a tourist, just seeing the place. No, that's a waste of time. Yes, it should not be a 1 year holiday, but it should be an experience where they learn something. So maybe joining a school, joining a course, or learning a skill. For example, starting to work as a waiter, because I believe that even the so-called mean jobs like waitressing or receptionist, especially when you're young, they are really beneficial, because I believe it's much better to learn customer service when you're serving pizzas at a restaurant, rather than learning customer service when you're working in an investing firm and there is millions of dollars on the plate. It's much, much better to learn those skills when, you have a pizza at stake. Worst case scenario, you just have to give them a free meal, a free drink, a free pizza if you mess things up. And also, it opens your mind. It helps you see, okay, I'm really good at customer service, or I'm terrible at customer service. This is something that I cannot do as a job. It helps you develop skills. It helps you develop communication skills. It helps you build a team, understanding how team works, how to communicate with your colleagues, how to make the workflow easier through your team, or at the same time to work by yourself. And it's much better to learn those skills in small jobs rather than in big jobs. And especially if you're very young, because when you're very young and you're used to have the same people around you, it could be really challenging to talk to a stranger and having to work with a stranger overnight. So I don't believe it's a waste of time, nor that you will like somehow lose your career path. No, as long as, of course, as you take the gap year with, I have to learn something mentality, and not I'm going on holiday for a full year. That's, I think, the difference.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So you went from working for the army to customer service to being a personal assistant to then becoming self-employed. What would you say were the key elements of all the experiences that you had that prepared you for being self-employed today?
Well, definitely the army prepared me a lot because I was in charge even back then. So I had people under me. I was already making decisions. So I already had the responsibility that comes with being in charge, and also the quick thinking, because especially in the police, somehow I had to face situations where my life or other people's life was in danger, and quick thinking and making decisions and not getting lost in the moment or getting overwhelmed by emotions. That's something that really still serves me nowadays. That is a skill that I will always be grateful for to my previous job. And customer service, well, I think most of my skills I got them in the army, because the army you need customer service, even though they are not customer, but there's people in need, which sometimes it's even worse than customer, because they need you to help them, they need you to solve their problem. So you need also to communicate with them in a way where you can solve their problem, but at the same time don't become the problem for them. You cannot be and become part of the problem. You always need to be a step back in order to help them. There is no way you can help them if you get emotional. So controlling emotions, that's another very important skill. I don't know. I think the army, in the end, it served me. It served me well. It was an experience that I don't regret, but I wouldn't do it again for sure. But the things that I've learned there, it will stay with me for a very long time, definitely.
Definitely sounds like the military experience was a lifelong learning of transferable skills that you've taken. And maybe it also taught you empathy, would you say? Is that something that you learned through your practical experience of working in the military?
Well, empathy, yes, it's required, but at the same time, you cannot jump completely into it. Meaning, I need to understand the person's situation, but I have to be cold and rational in order to solve that problem and to help them. Because once you get emotional, first of all, you are not able to solve the problem. Second, of course, you have many, many people coming to you. So if you go home and you feel sadness, anger, or loss, whatever, that does not belong to you, meaning it's something you're feeling for another person's situation, you can't. It's too much. So you need to put a glass barrier to see the situation, understand what is happening. Of course, feel empathy because we are human, but at the same time being on the other side of the glass so that you can actually manage and do what is required to do and help them.
So now take us into your current role as an image consultant. Your mission, as you've described, is to increase the authority of entrepreneurs by building their personal brands.
Yes.
And you use a method of tapping into the individual's core values of themselves and, of course, of their business. How is it different to what you were doing in your past experiences? And if any, how is it similar to the experiences that you had before?
Well, compared to the army experience, because that was my longest work experience, there are some similarities, meaning that I need to understand your situation. I need to understand what you want to communicate, what is your purpose, what you want to do, what is your business about. So there is a lot of empathy. I need to actually step in your shoes and understand what is your purpose so that I can translate it into your communication, your message, your images, and so on. The difference would be that in this case, there is no pain, there is no hurt, there is no anger. The situation is completely different, because back then I had to step into the shoes of a parent with child was being abused, or very bad situations where, of course, the amount of emotions involved, and there are bad emotions, unfortunately, it's really high. And of course, it impacts you somehow. Some situations I still do remember those people. Sometimes I still wonder how they're doing, because I got exposed to things that I had no idea it could even happen in this world. Like, some things for me were totally shocking, like, what, this is impossible, but yet they do happen. So that's the difference. Right now I'm stepping into an entrepreneur shoes to improve their business, improve their life. So it's something positive. The emotions involved are always of progress, building a business, making sales, going forward. Meanwhile, in the army, that was not the purpose. The purpose was to fix a big problem, fix a situation involving other authorities. It was completely different. But it doesn't change the fact that I need to have that glass ceiling in order for me to help you translate your values into a message, into an image, into a video, into anything into a style, anything that would be required for you to upgrade your business, to upgrade your business skills or your business sales, whatever might be the purpose.
So earlier you described a feeling that you had when you were working for the military, and you described it as this feeling that made you feel like it wasn't the right fit, but you kept trying to see with more time. Do you now wake up having that feeling? And if you don't, how does it feel to do what you're doing today?
No, I don't wake up with that feeling anymore, because now I understand that when I have that feeling is because I need to change something, whether it's my location, whether it's my job, whether it's whatever, anything needs to change, because that feeling, it's my alarm that something around me is wrong. Something it's not really what I want, and I need to change that. Now I wake up happy. I love what I do. I love to interact with people. I love to travel as well. I love Dubai. Honestly, that was the best decision I could make for me last year, to move to Dubai. I'm just honestly happy. Of course, being an entrepreneur is not easy. We all know that. But at the end of the day, I'm satisfied with what I'm doing. I'm satisfied with how I'm feeling. I'm satisfied with what I'm putting out in the world. So that for me is the biggest satisfaction. And I always believe that when you are satisfied with who you are, the money then will follow. It might take a little bit longer, because of course people need to know you. That's why your personal brand is important, to spread your message, spread your values, and then the money will follow. It will take a little bit more time maybe, but I believe that going to bed feeling satisfied, it's the best feeling in the world, because that explains also why so many billionaires commit suicide. Like, money is not everything at the end of the day. At the end of the day, what counts, it's being happy with yourself and the life you're built for yourself. Because having money alone will not fix that feeling. And I know that, because in the army, I was paid very well. I had a very comfortable life. But I was really unhappy. No amount of money could fix that feeling, that unhappiness, that gray lenses that I had on my eyes. Everything was gray, everything was bad, everything was making me angry, like that. And that's not me. I'm a very happy person. So of course, when you are angry and sad and depressed for such a long time, of course something needs to change. Back then I didn't know that was my alarm, but now I know that feeling. It's a sign that something needs to change.
So if a young person wanted to do the work that you do as an image consultant and being an entrepreneur as well, and they were trying to connect the dots between your work and learning knowledge, either at university or trade or vocational training, what tips do you offer them in terms of helping them understand, if they were going to take a type of course, what would you suggest they do to do the work that you do today?
Well, when it comes to branding, it's a very unique discipline. I studied a little bit through online courses, small courses here and there, and books. Seth Godin was one of the best authors in the field. But at the same time, I think it's something you really need to know even beforehand, meaning that the books will not give you the answers. The books, the videos, the trainings, they will give you maybe trends. For example, in the last 10 years, this type of branding works very well. This type of branding doesn't work really well. This message is going very well. This message is not. But in the end, you need to, I don't want to say already know what you're doing, but you need to have some sort of talent into understanding what we are talking about. Talent that could be, maybe you have talent with images. So you're a very talented photographer, for example. So you know how to place people, you know how to communicate through images or videos. Or you're a talented stylist. Like in my case, I started from styling. So you know how to communicate different messages through clothing and or makeup. So I believe that somehow you need to have a little bit of talent, and then you can perfect it through any visual discipline. Could be photography, styling, makeup, art, paintings, anything, you know, that, but that's something that you need to have in you somehow. Or you can learn by working with someone that does have talent. Because, you know, talent, sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't, but that doesn't mean that you cannot learn it. It will take a little longer. It will take you to actually work with someone or help someone who does have talent for you to understand, okay, this color works, this color doesn't work. This style means business, this style means art. So you start to see and recognize the different messages that comes from styling or images. So in my opinion, it would be working with someone, reading books, of course, that will help you understand how the person you are actually working with, it's working. But that's not really something that you can learn on books. It's something you learn through experience most of the times.
Love it, love it, love it. Okay, right before we come to a wrap, let's talk about your top 3 career tips. You say studying books, but practicing and working together as soon as possible. And I love that you also said, don't be afraid to be a beginner. I think that's one of the number one concerns for young people when they graduate, is they think they have to be this incredibly experienced and knowledgeable individual. How has being a beginner helped you in your career?
It helped me a lot, because when I actually quit from the army, I was a beginner again. Because the problem with this type of jobs is that when you quit, you don't really have any skill, like selling skill. You don't have selling skill. You don't have, yes, you have customer service, but not in the in the proper way. Like you have customer service skills, but not the proper ones. So in the end, you find yourself like, okay, what am I going to do? Because I know how to do a lot of things, but I cannot apply those things into any other type of job. So I was really lost when I quit. I was really lost. That's why I took a gap year, and I was a beginner again. I was waitressing at first. Then I moved into being a personal assistant. I just started again. And starting again sometimes can teach you a lot of who you are, what you like, how you want to do things, how you want your life to be. Is a teaching. It's an experience that is actually much more valuable than any other book. And starting from scratch also allow you to build whatever you want on top. So when you start from the base, you don't need to follow someone else's way of doing things. You can build your own. If it doesn't work, okay, I will take this out and try this new one. It's hard. I know it's really, really hard to start from scratch. But if you find a way to see that those obstacles that you're facing every day as a teaching and not as a failure, then you start making big progress. It will take some time. You can do things on the side. You know, you have freedom, which sometimes is scary.
Yeah.
It's scary to be free because you have so many options, like, oh, I could do anything. So what do I do? But that freedom is what actually will allow you to build something that is meant for you and not built it by somebody else on top of you.
Just coming right to the end, you also said that networking is a life-saving skill. Now, in my experience working with professionals of all ages, all years of experience, I am still seeing networking as one of the biggest challenges that professionals have in their career, whether they're an entrepreneur or whether they're an employee working in an organization. How do you see it as a life-saving skill? And what are some of your tips to a young person who never really learned how to network?
Okay. So for me, it's a life-saving skills, both in your business or in your personal life. Because when I moved to Australia by myself with no plan, no goal, no ambitions, networking actually helped me broaden my mind, seeing how Japanese girls were living, how were they thinking, how would they manage a certain situation. It helped me understand a different point of view, like something, oh, she's managing this problem in this way. She's really smart. That's something that I can do. But of course, you need to meet the person, spend time with the person. It's something that it will help you develop skills without you even knowing. This is in your personal life. In your business, networking, the problem is that many people think, oh, okay, I meet Maria today. So tomorrow, Maria is going to be my client and we're going to build a brand together and I will make a lot of money from Maria. It doesn't work that way. No. Okay. It's not going to happen tomorrow. Yeah. You meet someone, you connect with them. And that's why it comes back to what I do, building your personal brand. I meet someone new. She or he knows who I am, what I do. I clearly communicate what I do. How am I different from the others? My goals, my vision, my values, and so on. And then that person, we're connected. We might just hang out once a month for a coffee. I might just meet them maybe at another networking event. You never know. They will follow me on Instagram. Anything can happen. And in the end, maybe that person is never going to buy from you. But maybe that person will talk about you with someone else that actually wants to do business with you because, oh, this is exactly what am I looking for. And, you know, it doesn't happen the next day. That's the difference. You need to be not patient, but just don't expect anything from the other person. It's just a connection. You're establishing a connection that might turn into a friendship or it might not. Because, you know, sometimes you don't really connect with some people, but just don't expect anything in return. Expect lessons for sure, because that person could actually teach you some valuable skills, but then just connect, just for the sake of connecting. And then everything will happen by itself. You don't expect anything immediately. That's my tip.
Love it. Love it. We can go on forever and ever. Irene, I think it's just incredible that you went from working in the military, completing your master's degree in law, to becoming an entrepreneur. Did you have any entrepreneurs in your family, or were you the first?
No, I'm the first. I was the first also in the army. Nobody in my family was in the army, and now I'm the first entrepreneur in my family.
If we're looking to find you, Irene, either for branding or for mentoring, how can a client find you?
They can find me on Instagram at Irene Cló Rodriguez. I'm on LinkedIn, same name, Irene Cló Rodriguez. And on Facebook as well. Even I'm not very active on Facebook, but they can still contact me there. That's my main platform. I have a website, which is www.ireneclorodriguez.com. Everything is under my name, so they cannot go wrong.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much for being with me today. And thank you everybody for watching. That brings us right to the end of another incredible conversation. Today we were speaking with Irene Cló Rodriguez, who is an image consultant and stylist. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you at our next Let's Talk Careers with Miss V.